Welcome back, horror fans, cinephiles, and giallo enthusiasts. This is Tanner Leeser, your host for all things giallo here on The King in Giallo. We are continuing our coverage for the only giallo film directed by Romano Scavolinis, A White Dress for Marialé, released on November 30th, 1972. In this video, I will give you a condensed version of the full-length overview video covering only the cast and crew and the plot of the movie. Then I'll transition into the GialliTally. The GialliTally will contain heavy spoilers. Here is A White Dress for Marialé overview. A White Dress for Marialé, also called Spirits of Death, is an Italian production directed by Romano Scavolinis, who also co-wrote it along with Remigio Del Grosso. Music is composed by Fiorenzo Carpi. The cast is comprised of Galli, billed as Evelyn Stewart as Marialè, Ivan Rassimov as Massimo, Luigi Pistilli as Paolo, Pilar Velázquez as Mercedes, Ezio Marano as Sebastiano, Gengar Gatti as Osvaldo, Giancarlo Bonuglia as Joe, and Gianni Dei as the lover in the flashback. The plot follows Marialè, who as a young girl witnessed a brutal family tragedy. Her mother shot dead by her jealous father, who then turned the gun on himself. Scarred by this trauma, Marialè grows into a fragile, neurotic woman trapped in a stifling marriage to Paolo. Hoping to bring some life into their isolated villa, the couple invites a group of friends for a decadent weekend gathering. But what begins as a social diversion soon collapses into paranoia, indulgence, and violence as a killer emerges, eliminating the guests one by one. But I digress. On to the GialliTally. Spoilers ahead for those of you who haven't yet seen the film. You've been warned. My prediction for the movie's GialliTally score. I forgot to give a prediction in my unscripted review video, so I will predict around 575 to 625 points. Well, let's begin the GialliTally portion of the video. Beginning, as always, with the previewing cliches. The repeat offenders are 1 point for actor, 3 for writer, 3 for composer, and 5 for director. Galli was in Knife of Ice, Murder Mansion, The Blood-Stained Butterfly, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, The Weekend Murders, and The Sweet Body of Deborah, 6 points. Luigi Pistilli was in Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, A Bay of Blood, The Iguana with the Tongue of Fire, The Case of the Scorpion's Tail, and The Sweet Body of Deborah, 5 points. Ivan Rassimov was in Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, All the Colors of the Dark, Cross Current, and The Strange Vice of Mrs. Ward, 4 points. Pilar Velázquez was in Naked Girl Killed in the Park, 1 point. Ezio Marano was in Love and Death in the Garden of the Gods, The Black Belly of the Tarantula, A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, and Vergogna Schifosi, 4 points. Carla Mancini, as mentioned previously, for all of her work as an actor with minor speaking roles, will receive 10 points. Bruno Boschetti is said to be in this movie. He shows up in the official credits as other actors, and he also shows up on IMDb in the cast list, but he's the only person that they don't say what character he plays. And when you look at the official credits, the principal characters are all there, and then it says Franco Calogero, who plays the father, Carla Mancini plays the girl who gives the directions, and Gianni Dei, although he's not listed, he's the one who plays the lover in the flashback, so I don't know who Bruno Boschetti is supposed to be in this movie. I'm assuming he's either a fake Shemp or I don't know, but I almost took these points away for him because I don't know who he's supposed to be in the movie, but he is in the official credits, so if somebody can enlighten me, I would greatly appreciate it because I'm just assuming he's a fake Shemp. Regardless, Bruno Boschetti was in Love and Death in the Garden of the Gods, Your Vice is a Locked Room and Only I Have the Key, So Sweet, So Dead, Devil in the Brain, The Double, The Designated Victim, and Hatchet for the Honeymoon, 7 points. And Giuseppe Mangione wrote for Run Psycho Run, 3 points. Cliché points for the title. A white dress from Marialé contains a color, white, 5 points. And if we do the alternative title, Spirits of Death, we also get only 5 points for the title containing the word death. So we will just simply lock in for the title, 5 points regardless. First look, 25 points for the Italian director and 15 points for the movie releasing during the golden age of giallo cinema. And would you look at that? It is plot o'clock. It looks so warm, and yet we have us a cold open, 5 points. We open in the wilderness as a car pulls up. N is for nudity, 5 points. We find a woman and a nude young man enjoying themselves. The driver gets out of the car and tells his daughter, Marialé, to wait here. C is for children, 5 points. The driver treks through the woods towards the two lovers. Oh, by the way, this is the driver's wife. I is for infidelity, 5 points. Also, I like the man's all-white attire, so let's just knock this out here. F is for fashion, 5 points. The man approaches, draws a pistol, and fires, killing the paramour, and then his wife. Extra points for N is for nudity for someone being nude during their death, 5 more points. Extra points for I is for infidelity for murders occurring after the fact, 5 more points. W is for witness, 5 points. After the double murder, the man takes his own life, all witnessed by young Marialé. The credits begin. After the credits, Z is for zoom, 5 points. And animals featured. We have an entire menagerie, and I will include points for animals being mutilated as well as being killed. That is 2 points, plus 3 points, plus 5 points. This man sits and admires the menagerie, which includes monkeys, insects, scorpions, iguanas, and I believe those are tuataras, which are actually the 5th type of reptile. It's really cool. If those are, in fact, what those are. We cut over to another man driving through. He inquires to Carla Mancini about where to find the Bellaria house. The man driving, played by Ivan Rassimov, meets the man from the menagerie, played by Gengar Gatti. The guest shows an invitation he'd received to the manor, but the other man, the butler, says the house is desolate. No one is home. We find Marialé, now grown up, wandering the property. The visitor scales the wall and calls out to her. Y is for yelling, 5 points. The butler stares daggers at Marialé, who runs off. It appears that he was lying about the house being empty. L is for lies, 5 points. The butler, whose name is Osvaldo, puts some tincture drops in tea and brings them to Marialé. G is for gloves, 5 points. We cut over to 2 more people driving up. Extra points for Y is for yelling for a hysterical woman yelling, 5 more points. There is more yelling later, so, it's fine. We'll get it done now. Back with Marialé. Art featured, 5 points. The couple's car seems to have broken down. Well, car trouble, 2 points. Marialé's husband, Paolo, played by Luigi Pistilli, handles a shotgun. Chekhov's gun, perhaps? She accuses him of poisoning her, but he orders her to knock that off. She says the sedatives prevent her from thinking clearly and from being able to walk normally. Exposition dumping, 2 points. She expresses a longing for life beyond the villa walls and accuses him of hiring Osvaldo to help him keep her here. Just then, Osvaldo enters, and the 2 men force Marialé to swallow her sedatives. Sedatives taken, 5 points. Drugs being taken against a person's will, 10 points. Car honking is heard outside. Marialé runs to the gate. The 3 outsiders seen previously are now waiting together outside the gate. A pack of guard dogs meets them at the door. Osvaldo insists that nobody is home, but Paolo orders him to let the guests in. They enter, but another woman runs up as well. She tells Massimo here that she's not alone either, and there's 2 more men with her. Pervs, she calls them. This is Gustavo and Semy, who both seem to be fighting. We see the 2 other men as mentioned. The woman is Mercedes. This is Sebastiano and Joe. The guests settle in as Paolo gets Marialè. T is for telephone, 5 points. Paolo discovers that the phone appears to have been sabotaged and warns Osvaldo that he should have been more careful. He confronts Marialè, who confirms that yes, she broke the lock off the phone and had sent telegrams out to their friends. He asks if she realizes how difficult she is making this for him, but she doesn't care. She longs for human interactions with others, be they good friends or bad. She says now he has to go along with things or else he will arouse suspicion from the others and they will find out what he's been doing to her. He reiterates that he has no intention of harming her. He is taking care of her. Back with the guests, all of the couples appear to be having issues which they all try to keep under wraps. Beyond Paolo and Marialè, we have Gustavo and Semy, and Sebastiano and Mercedes. Despite the problems this party may cause, Paolo is forced to go along with it, unsure what Marialè expects to happen. Gustavo aggressively orders his wife to stop drinking, then says this:
Io di quella bocca, piccola scimmietta.
X is for xenophobia, 5 points. This causes a scene with the guests, prompting most of the men to defend Semy. Joe asks Mercedes what her husband said to her. Massimo tells Gustavo to stop being racist to his girlfriend. Cut to someone placing a snake on the ground. In brilliantly restored HD, we can clearly see that not just is this a puppet, but also we can see the strings as well. In a dusty attic, Massimo and Marialè speak in private. The two clearly once shared a romance before Marialè married Paolo. She asks him for his help, but quickly rescinds this, then runs out after hearing a sound. Mercedes screams after the prop snake begins slithering up her leg. Paolo draws a pistol and shoots the reptile. Osvaldo says he'd caught the snake in the garden earlier, but it must have escaped. Semy points out how suspicious everything is, from the snake, the telegrams that Paolo did not send out, the lonely castle, and the butler who is up to something. Gustavo orders her to be silent, and she mocks him, calling him White Master. He slaps her. Typical 1970s Italian misogyny, woman is slapped. 5 points. The moment is broken up by the suggestion for a grand tour of the castle. There's this odd bit where Semy seduces the old armor. Apparently, there's not so much a grand tour as much as the guests just wander around the property and get into different kinds of mischief. Mercedes follows a figure into the dark, which seems to grab her, but when Joe comes to the rescue, there's nobody there. Joe and Mercedes appear to be having an affair. Everybody finds themselves in what I believe are supposed to be the crypts, and Sebastiano says something about the history of places like this and how they retain a bit of the spirits of those who were there before them. I am paraphrasing a bit, of course. Despite Paolo saying there's nothing to find down there, the guests are insistent, and so they light some candles and proceed further down. Amidst the cobwebs, they find mostly junk and things left to be forgotten. Old clothes on mannequins, old mirrors, and the like. There's a portrait of Marialè's mother. Suddenly, a storm kicks up, and everyone seemingly gets lost in the excitement. While the others search through the cellar and find frightening sights, Marialè seems to laugh almost hysterically. The guests all scream in panic. Paolo commands everyone out. Sebastiano sees what appears to be a specter of himself in old clothes from a previous century. H is for hallucinations. 5 points. The group relights their candles and searches. They find Sebastiano, who plays a prank and scares them. The guests want to have a party while dressing up, and Paolo reluctantly tells them to go ahead, he'll wait for them upstairs. Marialè decides to wear the white dress her mother was shot in. She dotes on the portrait of her mother, and then we cut to her admiring herself in the mirror while wearing said white dress. She shows Paolo, who simply asks, what is wrong with her? Why would she put that dress on? Cut to the party full of revelry. This honestly just looks like a bunch of theater kids ad-libbing, and I'm kind of here for it, although this movie could easily be cut down to 55 minutes, honestly. There's a lot of quotes from The Last Supper which are spoken aloud. We cut again to that point in every party where the energy levels are rather diminished. Marialè gives Massimo something to drink, but no, it's not water, it's more wine. Semy gets naked and taunts Gustavo. Mercedes gets chummy with Joe, and Semy dances around. Gratuitous 1970s dancing, extra if naked. 5 points. And might as well do it now. Set in a manor or chateau, extra points if a group of friends are here for the duration. 10 points. The party seriously seems to be winding down, with only Semy here appearing to still have energy and be enjoying herself. Gustavo returns after vomiting, slaps Semy, who returns the slaps with even more energy. Then Joe begins whipping him, or pretending to. Massimo orders everyone to stop it. Semy finds herself alone in the menagerie. Close up on a lock, 5 points. The guests leave the dining room. Paolo tells Osvaldo to lock the cellars. Massimo confronts Marialé and tries to get her to tell him what the hell is going on, but she keeps playing coy, which is odd considering she was so hell-bent on getting all these people here in the first place. Q is for questions, 5 points. Joe and Mercedes sneak off to fraternize. They are spied upon by Sebastiano. E is for eyeballs, 5 points. Extra points for Z is for zoom a zoom on eyeballs, 5 more points. V is for voyeur, extra points for it being an act of infidelity, 10 points. Necking, 5 points. She is rather resistant, seemingly not wanting to follow through with this. He slaps her numerous times, but is broken apart by Massimo. Marialé then walks in, approaches Joe, and the two begin kissing. Massimo breaks them up and asks her what the hell is her problem. We cut over to find Semy in the menagerie panicking as many dangerous animals are unleashed, particularly scorpions. Massimo calls them all out for their debauchery. Marialé calls out Massimo for behaving as foolish as the others. The others then find Gustavo outside the menagerie. They push him aside and unlock the door. Semy jumps out, rescued. I suppose we should add typical 1970s Italian misogyny, woman is essayed, 7 points. And woman is rescued by a man, 10 points. While the men confront Gustavo for potentially trying to kill his girlfriend, Semy and Mercedes get closer. Gustavo blames the butler, Osvaldo, but Massimo points out that even if the butler did lock her in, Gustavo could have easily unlocked it, but he asserts it was too dark. Paolo tells them that their games have taken a toll on Marialé and she is in for the night. Sebastiano proclaims that they get it, they're being asked to leave. As we watch the two women get closer, we see the shadow of Sebastiano being murdered by an unseen assailant. Killer's identity is hidden due to the framing and editing, 2 points. The girls kiss. Queer characters, bi, 5 points. The body is dragged off while the women get even closer. Lesbian scene, 7 points. Evidence seen being hidden may include a body, 5 points. Gustavo sneaks in after the women are done and tries to apologize, claiming it wasn't him who'd locked her in, but Semy screams at him to get out. Mercedes finds Sebastiano's body. She screams out. The others join her. She asserts that she saw nobody and heard nothing. Marialé arrives last. The men argue about whether they should call the police or not, who could be the killer, and what their motive could be. After some bickering, Massimo asserts that they must call the police, despite how Paolo feels about matters interrupting his private life in the villa. Massimo attempts to call, but discovers the line has been cut. Paolo orders Osvaldo to go into town and to summon the police. Massimo suggests that they get out of these costumes and pretend to be normal. Osvaldo leaves, but once at the gate, hears someone calling his name. He returns, but cannot find anybody. Suddenly, he is stabbed. K is for knives, extra points for the blade reflecting the light, 10 points. The guard dogs arrive too late. Extra points for Z is for a zoom on a dead body, 5 points. The lights inside the villa go out. Semy walks outside. She finds herself at the pool, but she is not alone. She recognizes whoever it is with her just before they beat her to death. She is bludgeoned repeatedly. Gustavo finds a revolver. Paolo says the power was likely overloaded, and he and Massimo go to investigate it. They find the switch tripped, obvious tampering. They turn the power back on. Gustavo confronts Mercedes and Joe, stating he wants to get out of here. Massimo and Paolo enter and tell him that they must all stick together until the police arrive. After a brief standoff between Gustavo and Paolo, Marialé breaks it up by inviting Gustavo to just leave if that's what he wants so badly. He flees out the castle, but stops upon finding Osvaldo's body. The guard dogs this time arrive and tear him to pieces. We jump to the remaining guests still waiting. It is 4 a.m. now, and no police have arrived. Massimo finds a cat, but it is covered in blood. They follow the bloody paw prints, but Marialé steals Massimo away for a moment to warn him that Paolo had choked her earlier and that he wants to kill them all. Paolo bangs on the door and orders Marialé to come out at once. She fetches a revolver and gives it to Massimo, warning him that Paolo is armed and seeking to murder the two of them. Paolo eventually gives up. Joe walks out as we see someone return to Mercedes. First person POV, 5 points. Joe continues outside. He finds the two bodies, and Paolo sees him from the window with the bodies. Joe rushes back inside and now finds the dead body of Mercedes. The killer is behind him, and Joe too is killed. He is slashed aggressively with a straight razor. Massimo, tired of waiting, gets up and moves through the villa. Extra points for Z is for zoom, for a zoom on a weapon. 5 more points. He moves through, further and further, down the hall and back into the dining room. Inside, he finds Paolo. Marialé bursts inside, but Massimo tells both of them to stay where they are. He asks about the others. Marialé says they'd left, but Paolo states that she's lying. They've all been murdered by her. She asserts that he's lying, but Paolo calmly explains how the two men have been played by Marialé. He asks who released the dogs, suggesting Marialé, but she claims it was Osvaldo, but Paolo points out what Massimo surely knows, which is that Osvaldo was already gone. Massimo says that Osvaldo could have been working against all of them. Paolo points out how Massimo was given the revolver to kill him, but Marialé says, "What are you waiting for? Shoot him!" She says she loves Massimo, but Paolo warns him to not trust her. He says the masquerade, everything, they've all been toys for her unresolved anguish from the murder 30 years ago. Suddenly, Marialé begins speaking in a child's voice. She repeats, "Papa," and Paolo says she's very ill. While a flashback from the murder 30 years ago plays out, Marialé says how she loves Massimo and how Paolo killed her, believing him to be her father. She seduces Massimo with sweet kisses, but Paolo grabs the shotgun and fires, killing Marialé. Massimo turns the revolver on Paolo, but he too is shot dead. The camera lingers on Paolo, who sits, defeated, before cutting over to the guard dogs for several seconds. We hear a lone gunshot ring out, and the credits roll. Let's add up some final cliches. Hidden identity of the killer until the final moments, 5 points. The killer, referring to Paolo, commits suicide by gunshot, 5 points. The killer, referring to Marialé, is killed by somebody, 10 points. Someone babbles, 2 points. O is for obsession, extra points for the killer being obsessed, 10 points. And S is for secrets, and I fought myself on this whether to include this or not, but I reversed my initial decision, so yeah, extra points for the killer having an impossible to predict motivation, 10 points. And that's a white dress for Marialé. Yeah, okay, this one. Like I always kind of say, upon doing the deeper dive with the GialliTally, I appreciate the movie a little more, but this is my least favorite Giallo doing the 10 Little Indians thing, and I stand by what I said, that this could really be 55 minutes, and, you know, sure, that's not a movie running time, but Masters of Horror, those episodes were always 55 minutes, and this could be that short, if not even shorter. It's just, there's not a whole lot to it. I mean, it feels a little bit like a play, but I don't know. And, yeah, it's just a bunch of like people cheating on each other. The relationship with Massimo and Marialé is like not really fleshed out at all. It's all supposed to be inferred. The relationship between Paolo and Marialé is intentionally kept kind of hidden, but I gotta say, I feel like from the very beginning, I feel like I believe Paolo, not Marialé. And this is why I was struggling to really give it that extra points for S's for secrets for the, you know, the killer having an impossible to predict motivation, because it seems like it's obviously her, but I also assume, well, you know, everybody else has a motive, you know, but like, why would any of the guests want to kill everybody else? I don't know, but yeah, it's set up just enough, Marialé's motivation. It doesn't hit you over the head, but I will say when it gets to the end and you find out she's crazy, it's not a surprise. And then the weird reveal with the baby voice, it's kind of reminds me of Knife of Ice, and it also kind of reminds me a little bit of Libido. This is kind of like Libido a little bit with less people, and then the main person, you just switch the gender. But yeah, all in all, I will say also, it's not as bad as the director makes it out to be, but yeah, it really doesn't hold a candle to most of the giallo films of 1972, but there's certainly ones that I think are probably worse, but not many. Yeah, that's all I've got to say about that. So let's segue to the GialliTally cliches for this movie. Post-giallo viewing cliches. The reason for the killing. Mental illness, psychopathy, or obsession. 7 points. The reason for the investigation. There's not really an investigation, but I will still add amateur sleuth. 5 points. Because there is some investigating going on, but the reason is just not really one of the ones I have. Bonus points. The style bonus. The film has some decent use of style. We have our slow zooms in and out, our crash zooms. We have a lot of use of mirrors. We have a lot of slow motion and a little bit of stuttering, and at least 2 instances of first-person POV. So out of a maximum of 25 points possible, I will give A White Dress for Marialé 11 points for its style bonus. Soundtrack.
Spiacente.
Non è così?
Marialè.
Yeah, 15 points. Bad effects. Yes, the fake snake is horrendous. Full points, 15 points. Final look, extra points. The Deadpool tallying how many kills and deaths are featured in the film. I break it down as thus: 10 points per kill or death scene for the main Deadpool, plus any stylistic kill multipliers, which we didn't add yet, plus the knife kill bonus. We have the unnamed paramour, shot dead, 10 points. Marielle's mother, shot dead, 10 points. Marielle's father, shot dead, 10 points. Sebastiano, bludgeoned, 15 points. Osvaldo, impaled with a knife, 21 points. Semy, bludgeoned, 15 points. Gustavo, torn apart by dogs, 10 points. I feel like I should have I should have something for animal kills, animal murders. Mercedes, uncertain, 10 points. Joe, throat slit with a razor, 17 points. Mariella, shot dead, 10 points. Massimo, shot dead, 10 points. Paolo, shot dead, 10 points. Red herrings for the total number of legitimate suspects in the film. 5 points per legit suspect are awarded. We have Osvaldo, Paolo, Mariella, Massimo, Sebastiano, Mercedes, Joe, Gustavo, and Semy. 45 points for red herrings. I gave it to everybody because everybody could be a suspect, although for the initial murders, it can't be two of the women, but who's to say that they're not working with one of their lovers? Flashback sequences, 5 points each. We have 1. 5 points for flashbacks. It seems to cut to many flashbacks, but it's all the same greater flashback. Nudity, I award 5 points for ass, 7 for breasts, and 10 for genitalia. We have frontal and ass, breasts, breasts and ass, breasts, breasts and ass, breasts and ass. 65 points for nudity. Ladies and gentlemen, for A White Dress for Marialé, I awarded the film an AZ score of 18 out of 26. With the bonus points for these, we have a modified score total of 140 points. And for the full GialliTally score, I award A White Dress for Marialé a GialliTally score of 668 points, compared to Tropic of Cancer in first with 1,124 points, Short Night of Glass Dolls in second with 969 points, and What Have You Done to Solange in third with 933 points. A White Dress for Marialé is around 22nd place, after The Bloodstained Butterfly. I predicted around 575 to 625 points, and I'm actually surprised that it got more than what I thought. But you know what I totally overlooked? There's a lot of kills in this movie. It opens with 3 kills, and then the whole cast gets killed off. So I should have thought about that. I should have realized that there's actually a shit ton of kills in this movie. But like I say, these points do not mean a movie is better or worse. Please like this video, share it with your friends if they are horror fans or cinephiles, subscribe to The King in Giallo if you haven't yet, and if you have any questions, thoughts, curiosities, or concerns, leave those below in the comments section and I will get back to you. Give The King in Giallo a follow on Instagram and a like on Facebook. Subscribe to The King in Giallo Patreon to see early access to the YouTube videos, exclusive video series that can only be found there, and to generally support what I do. Next time on The King in Giallo will be the best of Giallo films for 1972. We made it, folks. It took us a long time, but we finally finished 1972. Thank you all very much for your continued support, and a special thank you to those who support me on Patreon. This is Tanner Leeser for The King in Giallo, and if nothing else, I'll see you next time.